Welcome back to Ascend Legal 101. I'm Ramona, and in keeping with our intention to explore different aspects of mentorship, today I'm joined by Colin Williamson and Bill McMillan, who are both members of the Victoria Flying Club and active participants of the Victoria Flying Club's Mentorship Program. Please help me welcome Colin Williamson and Bill McMillan. Welcome back to Ascend Legal 101. Today I'm joined by Colin Williamson and Bill McMillan, who are members of the Victoria Flying Club, and they have agreed to speak to me about mentorship and the formal mentorship program at the Victoria Flying Club. So thank you very much for joining me today.
Most welcome.
Welcome there, Ramona. It's been a pleasure.
So, Bill, let me start with you. How long have you been flying, and why did you seek out mentorship?
Okay, I started flying back in approximately April of 2015, and I started at the competition over Pacific Sky, but then ended up coming back to Flying Club because they had better planes and more instructors there. So I continued to keep going, got my privates in 2017, and that's when I met Colin at the awards banquet at the wardroom, and he mentioned to me about the mentorship program, and I thought, oh, maybe that's a good thing to help build some more confidence and get to meet some new people and go places.
And Colin, you have been a mentor to me personally.
Yep.
And informally, I would say at the beginning, for sure. I mean, you just sort of adopted me, you and the gang. But can you tell me how long you have been flying? And also what made you want to formalize this mentorship program?
Well, I've been flying for rather a long time. I started flying in 1973, did my first solo in October 1974, just right after my 18th birthday, but that was a few years ago. And then didn't fly for a long time because of family commitments and stuff. And then got my license again in January 2005. Fortunate enough to fly with a couple of friends that we know, that Ted and Don. We kind of all helped each other out a lot and realized that we were covering a lot of ground that the formal instruction did not. And it really just helps when you have somebody else with you when you're going to go do that first flight to a much further away town, and it's kind of like, oh my God, who do I talk to? Well, how do I fly? Blah, blah, blah. And so we kind of all help each other out. And then one of my friends in there, Don, was actually suggested we get this going. So, well, we need some kind of formal mentor program to help people out who've got their license, that passed all the licensing requirements, they're good to go, but their experience is still very limited. It's basically the Victoria area, and they've done their one cross country to Campbell River and one to Chilliwack, and that's kind of it. And they kind of said, well, the way the three of us help each other out, how can we do that to help other people? And so we created the mentor program. It's actually quite new, Bill, when you joined us. It was about September 2017 when we started it. And so we just thought, let's do this so we can help people get further along the path. And then, of course, because we're all pilots, we're all friends with other pilots. Great way to meet new people as well and have new pilots meet other pilots. And so it's kind of a combination of education, confidence building, and just social. Let's have some fun.
And Bill, I think a lot of people think that mentorship is just for young people. And you and I both started flying when we were over 35.
Well, for me, it was well over 50.
Right. So tell me about that. I mean, tell me what it was like to learn to fly over 50 and to start to connect and seek out mentorship when you're well established.
Okay, to start out basically, before I even started flying, I was in the Navy for 29 years, got out and started working at the airport as a security guard and looking up at the sky, these Cessnas flying around every day. And I said, one of these days, I'm going to be flying one of those. So lo and behold, a few years later, I started doing that, paying a bit out of my own pocket. And then I found out through the Department of Veterans Affairs that I was authorized to grant to find new education and, rehabilitate myself after being out for a while. So I applied for that, got the grant, and decided I was going to go take my licenses, which I did, was my private license, then my commercial, and now working on my instrument rating. But over and all that, at the age of 50, yeah, us older people, our minds are not with it like the younger crowd. We can't hold all that information in there all at once. Study habits are a little different, but I'm living proof it can be done.
Right, that's for sure.
Mhm.
I think that too, I had to learn how to learn again, right? And I had to find a way to retain all that information. And my experience with Colin and Dawn and Ted and Kim and Marie and the gang was that they were always challenging me and kept me in the fold. And all my favorite best flights are actually with Colin and Kim. Like, I'm sure you have the same experience. They're all, like around Mount Baker or to Oliver or, all of those kind of fun, different things where there was somebody else who could handle or help me, go through the hard stuff, like the 50 million radio changes.
Yeah.
So Colin, tell me, the thing about you guys is that you are such outgoing people anyway, and you sort of have a natural tendency to pick up vagabonds like me on your way. How many people are you mentoring currently, or how many people are involved in the mentorship program? And why would you encourage people to get on board more formally as opposed to, come on, let's go flying?
Well, I'll answer, you've got two questions there, so I'll split those. Currently, the mentor program's kind of almost in a pause state because of COVID. That quite a lot of people were uncomfortable with getting in a very confined space with somebody else who you didn't know whether they were COVID positive or not. But I think we're finally at a point in the pandemic where we're going to be able to start putting that behind us. So it is on my task list to kind of revive it and bring it back up again. So currently, COVID is like so many things, it's kind of damaged a lot of things. Sorry, remind the second question.
Why do you think it's important for people to come into a formal program or to seek it out?
Right, couple of points there. I mean, first of all, you are flying with people who are very experienced. The people who are in our mentor program as the mentors are all very experienced. They do have an enormous amount. My dad just got an email a couple of days ago from another guy who wants to join as a retired airline pilot. And so this is something where I want to start building as well as the actual flying skills. If I've got a retired airline pilot or two, then that can really help the young guys with what's the reality of getting a job in aviation. The more structured thing it does, things like, I actually did take some lessons for flying in the right-hand seat. So even though I'm not an instructor, it does mean that if things kind of go a little wobbly, shall we say, I mean, I can take over, fly, and land and everything from the right-hand seat. And I think that's true of all the rest of our people that are mentors. One of them also is a former instructor who just does other work professionally, but loved his instructing. So it's a way for him to kind of instruct without being an instructor, if you will. So there is a bit more program there. We also will work closely with the person, the mentoree, and ask them what their goals are. Like, what is it you're wanting to achieve? What's giving you trouble? Let's go try some stuff out. So, I mean, we are already thinking down that path of how do we help progress the person as opposed to let's just go fly around. And you will both notice that tend to push you a little bit on, let's go a little further than what you were thinking. You know, when you're going to go fly into that airport in Princeton or Pembroke or wherever that we've not been into before, no, you go do it. Like, you can see people have not done it. They're kind of, can I do this? And, but that's quite deliberate. I mean, we're wanting to help the person stretch a bit. If all you do is have them repeat what they're already good at, they don't really learn anything. So that mentoring side, I mean, I have some background in education as well. I used to do course instruction. and a number of our mentors have been in educational roles. So we do think down that path of how do I help my mentoree progress? How do I get them along? And we'll do the stuff when they come in, the confidence building stuff. And we're going into this airport in the mountains. It's all kind of funky terrain and everything looks weird when you come in. Like, okay, set it up. You know how to do an overshoot. Don't worry if you need to overshoot. That's perfectly normal. Come on in, let's take a look at it. How's it look? Doesn't look great, does it? Okay, let's hit the power and come around and do the overshoot. And then do the confidence building. Like, now you're coming in the second time. You've seen what it looks like on an approach once. It's not going to be as scary this time. So then we go, and sure enough, it works. And then it's like, oh, that wasn't so hard. And that's just like having a background in a number of us as actually educators. We do think that way, as opposed to just kind of random. I don't know, does that answer that?
It does. It does. Thank you for that.
Oh.
And, it makes, as you were talking, I thought, oh, I see what he was up to. He wasn't just being my friend. he was building my confidence. That was pre-planned.
Because that actually is the two things I really run into with mentorees. Often the person is better than they think they are. That their competence is greater than their confidence, if you will. So what you're trying to do is help them bring their confidence up to what their competence is. You don't want it above that because that gets you in trouble too, but bring that up. And then there are just things in the formal private pilot license curriculum that doesn't cover the reality, especially of, this very crowded airspace in the Victoria, Vancouver area, plus mountains. And you put those two together, and it's actually one of the most complex places to fly in the country. So, we help on that. I mean, by far the number one thing people struggle with is radio procedures, by the way.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. Well, I'm glad I'm not alone. But
no, you're not.
and the birds at the Boundary Bay Airport.
Especially when Seattle Center says,
yeah,
are you a Canadian aircraft?
We can't hear you.
Yeah.
So Bill, tell me what are your plans moving forward?
I wouldn't say flying a Boeing or anything like that. Well, hopefully by the time I get this IFR done, I still have a few years left that I might be hireable by an airline, but I probably won't expect that. I may continue on and just build some more time and continue with the mentorship and find out how to do other things that I haven't done yet, and may become an instructor at the flying club, pass what I've learned onto somebody else.
Right. That's a great idea.
And it's like Colin was saying about making us do things that we weren't comfortable with. My first trip with Colin was going to, Tofino, but then the real challenging one was with him and Kim going into Princeton, doing the descending turn over low terrain or high terrain, then coming back in for the runway and having to do a missed approach and come back.
Right. Well, good for you. You did it.
Yeah. Yes.
Sure.
Then there was our long cross country that I did from Victoria to YY, Castlegar, and Cranbrook.
Wow.
That was a nice flight. Colin gave me some pointers along that. We then going into, I guess it was Penticton or whatever it was, the first one, and going down through the valley and then in through the canyon and then into the airport. So we did above, down a canyon, and then into the valley and then landed. So I did all three in one time. But it was a challenging but interesting flight.
Right. And
yeah,
fun.
That was, then we took my teenage granddaughter along in the back seat for fun.
Yes.
And went into Oliver as well.
Yes.
And the tricky one with Oliver was getting out of there because we needed fuel. And it was just absolutely smoking hot. And that's a short runway. So we were doing the math on like, can we actually get out of here again?
Yeah, and we did it.
We did.
Good for you. Oliver was also one of my most challenging flight takeoffs with Colin. So he's the guy. I guess, for that, because it was really hot and we had to turn, we were really
Yeah,
corkscrewing out of there. And that airplane did not want to climb. It just
no,
didn't. It was just too hot.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what we ran into as well. I mean, we were doing the math on coming off the runway because there's a little bit of a hill with some trees on top, and it's a short runway, and it's like, ooh, are we gonna clear that? And but yeah, the math worked. We did. We proved it. And we missed those trees by 50 feet. But it was
So,
all good. And then, as you say, exactly the slow climbing turn to get out of the mountain valley, and it took a while.
yeah. So both of you, what are your words of wisdom going forward to people who are seeking mentorship, or just, Bill, what would you tell yourself
Well,
about?
I'd say okay, the mentorship, it sounded like it was a good thing. Go do it. You'll learn things. If you don't learn much, at least you'll gain some friendship and some flight time and see how it goes. Yeah, I'd say to myself, if you don't want to fly right away, talk to some people that have been in it. See how they handled it, how it helped them, and then go from there. Yeah, Colin and we've had some good flights. One last year that did the 360-degree around Vancouver Island.
Wow.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yes.
I'd actually never done that before.
Nope, nor have I. And that was the first time we did 145 knots in a Cessna.
Strong tailwind.
Yes.
And what about you, Colin? What would you tell or what would you, pass on for wisdom to other people, or what would you tell yourself?
First of all, do it. Be a mentor. You've got stuff to share. Please do. A couple of things. I mean, it's just a good thing to do. That is, if you can help other people, I'm a big fan of helping other people. It's the right thing to do. That's all that needs to be. Otherwise, it's a good, fun experience for a mentor. Like, you're going to enjoy it. So, you don't need to think of it as like, oh my God, it's work. It's like, no, it isn't. It's fun. And actually, you will learn stuff off the people you fly with as well. They're going to teach you stuff as well. So, I mean, the learning goes in both directions. The social side is really nice. So you get to meet other people, you spend time with them, you have some good laughs. And, and obviously if you go fly long enough out somewhere, you're going to stop for lunch somewhere and have a nice chat over lunch, and you just become friends. And having friends is always a good thing. So I guess I would say for somebody that's considering becoming a mentor, please do it. It's good. You'll enjoy it. And whether it's like this is in aviation, I also do some mentoring for people on project management and business analysis, which is what pays for my flying. And it's just a really enjoyable thing to do, to spend time with others. And you can kind of look back on what they're doing and go, yeah, that used to be me. I used to be like that. And when you watch them progress, it is extremely rewarding to see them as they come along. So, I mean, you're going to get a big reward out of it for yourself, and the fun and the watching the progress of others. And it's also, our society just works better if we all give back some.
Yes. I'm wondering, is there anything that I haven't asked either of you that you feel is important, or that you want people to know?
I guess I'd say for somebody being a mentor, you need to evaluate your own skills honestly, know your own limits. So for example, in my case, I'm not IFI rated to go fly in horrible weather. And stay within your limits. Like, don't try and say, well, let's really push this and see how it goes. It's like, yeah, don't do that. That would be the wrong thing way around. And otherwise, it's really just a matter of thinking about the other person, and empathizing with them, when they make mistakes, because they're going to. You just understand that that's part of the learning process. You don't go smack them around. It's just like, okay, well, let's talk about that. How did that go? And usually they're going to be fully aware that what they did didn't work. You don't need to tell them that. And it's just like, okay, well, let's analyze it. Let's think about it. And how do we do that different next time? Yeah, it's fun. It's good. Do it.
Good. What about you, Bill?
For myself, I would say if you had the chance for mentorship, do it. It's a good learning experience. They like to push you doing things that you've never felt comfortable before doing, Colin.
Yeah.
But no, it was fun. I enjoy it. You get to meet new people, make new friends. I also been up with Don and Roman, or that we did going to Tofino. I did the flight into Tofino, then he took us into Port Alberni, and you flew from Port Alberni back home. So we did VFR over the top, some IFR, and then some regular flight that day around Mount Aerosmith and then home. But yeah, so we got a chance to do everything. So do it, gain the experience, take the corrective criticism. It's not meant there to hurt you, it's there to help you. That's what a good mentor does for you.
Those are great pieces of advice. Great. So thank you both very much for joining me today.
You're very
I
welcome.
really appreciate both of you because I number one, I've watched you progress in your, in Bill's attaining his licenses, and I get to watch all your great flights. I see the pictures later together, and that's why I thought you would be perfect for this. Plus also, Colin, I do have to say thank you so much because you've been such a great mentor for me. And again, all my favorite flights are with Colin and Kim.
Well, then it's time we did another one, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So thank you both for your time. I really appreciate it.
Very welcome, Ramon, and thanks very much for everything too.